I'm Marty Gould. In part one of our business card webinar, we talked about basic tips and rules to follow for designing cards. Now in part two, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the details that really make the difference. My guest is Paul Osborne, the principal of Paul Osborne Design in Ohio. He's been in the business for more than 30 years and has designed business cards for hundreds of companies. We're going to look at some examples of good design, why the cards work, and how you can make your cards look just as good. So here's Paul.
This one you see here now for the Hardin County Chamber of Business Alliance. A couple of years ago, they went through a complete revamping of who they were and how they were structured and everything. So the first thing we did, went in and listened to their story. What you see there in their logo of the four hands joined together, they have four divisions of the Chamber and Business Alliance. And it's somewhat of a festive, a celebratory theme. Using the colorful display and that, and you can see how we ran at the bottom. We didn't just run straight type, we ran it on a curve, and it looks more festive that way because they're celebrating the fact that Hardin County is a great place to do business.
Was running the type in that curve controversial, difficult for the client to possibly accept at the beginning, or was that an easily accepted design element?
I'll tell you, normally I would say, and I offered them a couple looks at it. I offered them one on a straight line, and I think it took two lines, but it was just horizontal. And then I offered this as an alternative, and this is what you do sometimes as a designer, depending on who your client is that you're working with. You'll give them something safe that they can swallow very easily, and then give them something that will make them, if they want to be a little brave and try it, to do that.
And that is eye-catching because it is unusual.
It is unusual, yes, and it does. And something unusual like that forces you to read it.
And I would also point out that it's the use of white space here that allows that element to stand out, because there is so little on the card, your eye is immediately drawn to the colorful logo and to the curved line. So you get immediate recognition as to what's going on here.
And everything is very easy to read. This is something else too, Marty. Rarely, and now sometimes, depending on the situation, sometimes I'll use a serif font or something different, but most times, generally speaking, I would say 90% of the time, I use a simple modern font. When I say modern, I mean a sans serif font that was developed in the last 100 years, something like Helvetica or Futura, something. It's interesting because serif fonts, you want to use those if you're writing a novel. Serif fonts are much easier to read in a paragraph situation. However, in a situation such as this, with very little information, sans serif modern font is very, very easy to read.
All right. What else do you have to show us here, Paul?
Marty, this is one that you and I worked on together a couple years ago, Georgia Salivary, and this was a situation where we did a redesign of all of her stuff. We developed everything around her signature, and we picked a color scheme of, I think, 3 colors, and we went with that. But here we see one side of the business card, which is just her logo, her signature, and her title. On the back side, what we see here is all of her information. You'll see that bar that we set up there. Those are the 3 colors that we used. Here's a situation where we did use a serif font because that was the font that we used for everything throughout all of her literature. So here you see it. It's got all of her information there, her name, her email, her mobile, her fax, her website.
Yes, and we should point out again, Paul, to remind folks that this was part of an entire redesign, so that there were brochure materials, handouts, even television advertising that was all based on these same color schemes. The same sidebar that was on this business card was utilized in all the other printed materials and the videos. And that signature became her logo, in effect, and was also utilized on everything that she hands out to clients.
This is just a family-owned farm, a couple cows, and they have some few beehives, and so Female Farms is the name that they came up with, Land of Milk and Honey, because that's primarily their products. And she was the wife was quite fond of a children's book she had for several years, and it was illustrated with clay, very nicely illustrated. And she said, "Can you replicate that?" And I said, "Well, I can give it a shot." So what I did was I replicated this clay type of illustration using Photoshop. It's not really a logo. It's much too detailed for that, but that's what they wanted. And I think it comes off pretty well. It shows that forth exactly what they wanted to show. They now put this on all their labels, any correspondence that they have over the internet. Everything that they do, they put this stamp on it. We did the business cards the same way. I'm going to zoom out here so you can see the whole business card. Okay, so what I've done here, now I laid this out for them a couple different ways. I did it horizontally, and I put their logo, but horizontally, to get the logo the size we wanted it was compromising the space we had for the information, of course. So I laid it out on vertical, and you can see they wanted to put their several products that they put there. Of course, the name's not big, and she wanted the script font, which I'm okay at. And then their contact information down at the bottom. Now, their contact information is quite limited. They don't have a fax. They don't correspond or have email and they do correspond that way, but she did not want it on the card. She just wanted the address and the phone number for initial correspondence. So that's the information we put on there.
And we should point out, Paul, here that if somebody had a similar type of layout like this, and they needed to put in their email address and their web address, it wouldn't be that difficult to rearrange the card just a little bit, maybe take out one or two of the lines of the products there, and tidy things up.
Sure. Or we could instead of listing each product stacked on top of one, we could use bullets and maybe just 2 products per line or something like that. There's several ways to gain space on a card.
So the vertical layout is perfectly acceptable, but it surely should be dictated by the design, what's best for the readability and the design flow first.
Marty, this is a mock-up that I had done for this contractor. And again, it was a total redesign of all their materials. Now, you see my name in there, and that was for reasons of the mock-up, because basically I know my name. And I didn't know names out there at the time I was doing it, but I want to show them an initial mock-up. This is the design they ended up going with. And all of their marketing material redesigned. They designed their logo. They were all temp refrigeration. And it was too many words. It was too cumbersome. Their logo, they didn't like it. It was amateurish and had a lot of things going on in there. And they said, we need something much simpler. So I said, okay, why don't we call it ATR? And they thought that was a pretty good idea. So we changed the name to ATR. We did a new logo, and immediately the swashes you see around the logo to explain immediately that they're mechanical contractors. We put that logo on the card. I don't know if you can see it well, but there are very light stripes in that card. You see that, Mark?
Yeah, I actually can see that, and I think our viewers will be able to see it when we show it close up. Yes.
Yeah, well, that can be done a number of ways. We continued those stripes through all the literature. We thought it was a good look. We thought it just enhanced the pieces very well the way it was designed, and it carried through the business card. Now, there's a number of ways you can do this. This particular stripe was just done, I think, with 5% yellow. It's just very faint. But you can also do that with a varnish. Maybe with you can do a gloss or a flat varnish and get that stripe in there. There are a number of ways to deal with something like that. All it is an enhancement. But you see the information, and there's a good deal of information on here. We have their address, we have their phone number, their fax, the email, and also the website information. Now, if you notice, there's plenty of them up there for the name. I like to leave as much room as I can for the name, because that is the great variable on this card. You have to have a situation where you have plenty of room for the name. If it would have dictated dictated it. I leave all the space I could for a name, because some people's names get quite long, several characters. And so sometimes you might even want to break up the name on 2 lines. But I've got plenty of space out there for that, because that is the variable. Everything else is constant.
And there may be, in some instances, in a layout like this, or many layouts, that underneath the name you would have the title, of the job description of who the person is. Chief engineer,
Yes.
general manager, things like that.
Yeah, in this case I didn't, because it was a mock-up, of course, and I used my own name. Yes, you would have the title there. Matter of fact, in the finished product, we did have the title under each person.
And the other thing that I think is important to point out on this is that there is absolutely nothing wrong when you look at a horizontal layout on a business card, that there's really only a couple of places to put stuff. So the logo is going to go on one side and the contact information on the other, vice versa. And the way that you laid the type out where it is flush to the right gives the card symmetry. It also opens up room to get that logo large enough so that it will make an impression. And if you're home designing, you might not understand how to make the type work that way. So as you're looking at this type, the reason why the card feels balanced is because all the type is flush right, and that opened up a little cavity where you can see next to where it says Delphus, Ohio, and the phone and the fax number, to get that logo a little bit bigger. The same thing could have been done flipped the other way, right, Paul?
That's correct. And you'll notice, too, once again, like we spoke before, there's plenty of white space on this card. White space gives balance. And so you notice down in the left-hand corner, we have nothing. And that's a good thing. We don't have to fill up the card with everything in the kitchen sink. You want to have that space, and it creates that balance that gives a good design.
So let's review some of the tips that we learned today. First, in almost all cases, use sans serif fonts for the information that you're putting on the card. They're just easier to read, easier to manipulate, and then give you more design options. Second, leave white space to focus attention on the data and the information. It's the absence of data that helps draw people's attention to what is actually on the card. So don't fill everything up, leave some white space. Third is justify your type either to the left or to the right if you're doing a horizontal layout, so that you can leave some room for the logo to make the logo larger. If you do it flush left or flush right, you can put the logo on the opposite side and you'll get a little bit more room. Next, add a design element to create some kind of interest or memorability. Not a very overt one, but a simple one. A swoosh, a touch of color, something that enhances the interest in the card. And last, use the same layout style for all your marketing materials. If you're redesigning the business card, it should match all the other marketing materials that you have. And if you haven't done a media audit to look at all of your materials, this would be a good time to review them and take a look to see what you might be able to do to spruce everything up. But they should all relate together, because as people receive more than one piece, they'll get a reinforcement of your logo, of your brand image and your identity, and it'll make those pieces more memorable. Well, I hope this session was helpful to you and that you got some idea, designs, tips, anything you can use to maybe make your business cards better. In the meantime, we're still running our contest to find the worst business card and give that owner of that card a whole new design absolutely free of charge. I've got 3 to show you right now. I'm going to put them up on the screen and put them up as numbers 1, 2, and 3. We're going to show them without comment, but if you just finished watching the seminar, I think you'll get a pretty good idea about what makes these cards not very good. If you want, you can vote for the favorite that you have, the worst out of the 3, right here on the website. Just click on either number 1, 2, or 3, whichever card you think is worst. We're going to tabulate the results. We'll factor those in, and we'll pick a winner, or a loser as the case may be, on March the 5th. And that company will receive a brand new business card design from Paul and myself, and some consultation absolutely free of charge. Obviously, we think we can do a little bit better than what they have. And if you have a card that you think is just as bad or maybe even worse, or you know somebody who's got a really bad card, just scan it and email it to me at the address below, and we'll enter it into the contest. You have until the 28th of February to enter your cards, and we'll pick the worst one, and hopefully we'll make everybody's business cards a little bit better. Hope you enjoyed the webinar, and looking forward to catching up with you soon.